obi dị mma, were obi nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma, were obi nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ga-anụ ihe, ha ga-anụ ebe Chineke na-ajụ, ọ bụ gịnị mere ume n'ụwa jere ibe ha iro, ebe ya bụ Chukwu kere ụwa dị mma. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-anụ ihe, ha ga-anụ ebe Chineke na-ajụ, ọ bụ gịnị mere ume n'ụwa jere ibe ha iro, ebe ya bụ Chukwu kere ụwa dị mma. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ahụ ihe, ha ga-ahụ ihe ọma niile Chukwu kere. Ọ dịghị onye ọbụla Chukwu si na ọka ya mma, ọ dịghị onye ọbụla ka ibe ya mma. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ekwu eziokwu, ha ga-ekwede ihe kwuru mere eme. Ọ dịghị onye ọbụla okwu ya kacha ụtọ na ntị, omenala anyị bụ eziokwu anyị. Were obi dị mma na-eto, were obi nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-anụ ihe, ha ga-anụ ebe Chineke na-ajụ, ọ bụ gịnị mere ume n'ụwa jere ibe ha iro, ebe ya bụ Chukwu kere ụwa dị mma. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ekwu eziokwu, ha ga-ekwede ihe anyị kwuru mere eme. Ọ dịghị onye ọbụla okwu ya kacha ụtọ na ntị, omenala anyị bụ eziokwu anyị. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa na-anụ ihe, ha ga-anụ ebe Chineke na-ajụ, ọ bụ gịnị mere ume n'ụwa jere ibe ha maka na ebe ya bụ Chineke jiri ụmụadị. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Asị na mmadụ niile ndị bi n'ụwa ha ga-ekwu eziokwu, ha ga-ekwede ihe anyị kwuru mere eme. Ọ dịghị onye ọbụla okwu ya kacha ụtọ na ntị ya, omenala anyị bụ eziokwu anyị. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma, were obi nwayọọ, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke, were obi dị mma na-eto Chineke. Were obi dị mma nwayọọ na-eto Chineke. Dewo. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. I know I am. It's a beautiful day today. It's been quite dark and damp, but everything looks good today. I'm Okedibia Dr. Wanya Harsimari. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Cheese and Life. And we're going to have a wonderful discussion today. As a matter of fact, I would like us to get into it. Usually I take the time to have a little monologue, but I'll do the monologue afterwards because it's important that we get started with the conversation today. As always, I want to bring in my host, Dibia Ochoa. Okay, Dibia Ochoa, Yudi Onyo Haimage. Yudi, welcome.
To tell you, the new look is absolutely refreshing. You look absolutely marvelous, wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous. Well, let me just say, it is just beautiful to see a different you. It is nice. Love it. Love the look, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a woman's prerogative. You determine how you want to look any day.
Can you imagine
so
me?
Thank you. Welcome.
No, I'm saying, can you imagine me wake up in the morning one day and I have a toupee on? I would look rather stupid.
Okay, you may want to try that.
No, it is
try
not
that.
My
Let's see how that works.
It is not my prerogative to change my looks like women do. So hey, I hear you.
Okay, very well, very well. I also want to bring in our motivational speaker, Namdi Osimiri. How are you, Namdi?
Greetings.
He is waiting. There you go. Hey. Hey, young man, what's up?
Greetings. Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? You all right?
We're good.
Thank you for having me on.
You are welcome. You're welcome. We have a special guest today. And if I don't get his name correctly, I hope he'll forgive me. But his name is Mr. Baruwkelyon Adamastos Sephirot Hopsistos Gadiel. Let me put that up here. And I hope I have it right. And I'm going to leave that a little bit so you guys can be able to take that all in. And here he is. I'm going to add him to the screen. Hello there. How are you? Hello. Can you hear us? Mr. Cullen? How are you? How are you? Can you hear us? It shows that he's... Can you hear us? Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Does he even see us?
I don't know, but I'm going to send him a note. So I'm going to remove him for now, and I'll send him a note and let him know. So in the meantime, before I start talking to him, because sometimes we get the connection can be quite messed up particularly when you're from home. So wait, I just want to go right into this. Everything that's going on in our world today has to do with our leadership. Has to do with our leadership. I think it's important that as we talk about what colonialism did to us as Africans, to take a look at what all the specific questions I'm going to ask today that you need to address. You want to tie it back to our leadership because that's very, very important. So what are those problems that we have? Well, for me, the first problem I think that we as Africans have experienced because of colonialism is economic. Okay, what economic impact did it have? So some of the principles that they have applied throughout Africa are relevant to the economic situation of Europe. Okay, not the nation's base, the topography of Africa. Okay, that type of economy that we have in place does not work. Now, what are your thoughts on that? What economic impact? And I'll go to Yudi, then I'll go to Namdi. Yudi, go ahead. Meanwhile, let me try and bring in our guest.
Apologists will say that it was European influence or colonization that opened up Africa economically, that we had the inability to use the resources that we have, for greater economic good for our people, right? That's the apologist, how do you say it, view of the positive impact of colonialism. And then they go on to say that because of the war and factions of tribalism and all that, we were not able to take advantage of colonial rule. And some people even argue, as a matter of fact, that the colonial masters left too soon, that we were not ready for self-rule when they left. So, in other words, if we had just, not try to gain our independence and allow the colonial masters to, continue to rule, then maybe somewhere down the line we would have been better prepared, right, to take advantage of the institutions, excuse me, that the colonial masters left, in Africa. Pretty much we were not able to take advantage of the blessings that was bestowed upon us by Europe. I beg to differ. First of all, colonialism did not allow us to take our rightful place in the sun. What do I mean by that? We were not able to evolve naturally. Evolution of most communities is dependent on what is called cross-cultural pollination, right? You borrow things from other nations because of trade, not because you were colonized, but because one nation traded with another nation, and through discoveries were able to find some things about that nation that they could use. So they incorporated it without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and vice versa. So through this cross-cultural pollination, people are able to evolve into the 20th, 21st century, or whatever century that you find yourself in. Personally speaking, just like most people that are African-centered in their mindset, it is not an impossible thing to think that the effect of colonialism, for one thing, is dependencies and underdevelopment, dependencies on doctrines and influences that are not of our own choosing, right? During the Great Passage, what happened to one of our most important resources? One of our most important resources was human resources. The great scientists, the Dibias, the doctors, the farmers, the hunters, those people that built and kept the communities cohesive, were shipped out to the Americas, to the Indies, to the United States, to Panama, to Haiti, to Jamaica, to Argentina, Colombia, to plantations in South America. These human resources were the building blocks of Africa, and we were never allowed to evolve. The knowledge that some of these people had were never passed down naturally to the next generation to help develop and build her and be able to compete with the rest of the world. Then colonization. Let's take Belgium, for example. Congo is probably one of the richest nations in Africa or in the world when it comes to natural resources. Uranium, they have it all. Gold, timber, they got everything. Belgium exploited them. How did the Congolese benefit? By having 2 million people have their arms and legs amputated because they weren't working hard enough for the colonial master to meet the quota of production that the colonial master needed. How does 2 million people running around with no hands, with stumps for legs, how did that benefit the African? Exactly what it is it that the European did for the African that the African was not capable of doing for themselves? If we had engaged the process of cross-cultural pollination, which most countries do, Europe was trading with China, trading with Japan, trading for silk, vice versa. In South America, the same thing that's happening to South America, happening to Africa, the same thing that is happening to South America. They were colonized. Eventually, the South Americans forgot that they had great empires like the Mayan Empire, the Aztec Empire, the Inca Empire. Everybody turned Catholic. We started to justify our worth by standards that are not of our own choosing. When you change a person's concept of God, from them and supplant it with yours. They become stupid, self-hatred. They justify their worth by standards that are not of their own choosing, and they become violent. And you could see that all over South America. You could see that all over Africa. We were not even able to keep up with the 21st century. I mean, 20th century, let alone the 21st. At least we did better in the 20th century because those Africans that fought for independence from Britain were still around. The Kwame Nkrumahs, the Patrice Lumumbas, the Jomo Kenyatta, even the Nelson Mandelas. These people were still around and were able, through a Pan-African mindset, build nations in Africa. They were competitive up until the proliferation of Protestantism. And somehow it ejected any sense of Pan-African mindset from us, where religious uniformity becomes non-existent. We don't stress communal responsibilities anymore. And some of those things that people like Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah were trying to imbibe on us to do, to be able to understand nation formation, nation management, and nation building and nation management is lost in us now. So in the end, when you look at Africa, look at South America, look at what's going on, exactly where do you see the benefit of colonialism right now? Whether you argue that we were not able to take advantage of it, when you look at Africa right now, where is that benefit? Is it Boko Haram? What is it? Nandi can continue and talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Nandi, go ahead. Put your go ahead, Nandi. What are your thoughts?
He basically hit on so many different points, and all of them are 100% true. I mean, we can fast forward. Today's actions are basically a repetition of the past, or at least evidence of the effects of the past. If you can look at so many different nations that exist today, that are thriving today, most of those nations, of course, there were aspects of colonialism. That's a given. There's no refuting that. India, Asia, all of them had aspects of. Sorry, something flew right past my ear. Had aspects of colonialism. That's but most of those nations that are still thriving, the main element that allows them to thrive is them holding on to their culture. Culture is one of the most important things to a nation, even through colonialism. Those nations that held on, those people that held on to their culture, which the main thing that embodies those cultures is the semblance of something higher than them in their own image, right? Yeah. So that's why you can see individuals. Let's just take, you mentioned economically. So if you look at most nations, not only are you going to see images of their own people on their dollars, on their currency, but you're going to see them holding on to certain spiritual or religious doctrines. And those are going to be the things that they fought, bled, died for. And I'm not saying that we as Africans didn't. We really did. Absolutely. At the same time, European colonialism held on so tight that when we supposedly got our freedom, the influence of Western society basically took over. The Africans had succumbed to what was just injected into us. And that has not allowed us to grow financially at all, because not only are we holding on to certain European tenets that do not allow us to actually progress. But the individuals that colonized us physically and mentally still hold on to our resources. They still have access to our resources. they still command our resources. And one of the main resources, as Dibia Otwaja has mentioned, is the people. That's actually the greatest resource. The greatest. You can have your diamonds, you can have your gold, you can have whatever it is that you want to have, your land. But when you occupy the minds of the individuals that exist on the land that you want to occupy, then you really hold the wealth of the people. And that's the main issue. Like our wealth as Africans, if you go onto the African continent, Africa has every single natural resource on the face of the earth. And when I say every single natural resource, I'm also talking about the people. You are holding on to the minds of the people. When 99, let's just take Nigeria, for example, when 99% of the country is either Muslim or Christian, you have access to all the resources because the people there are not looking to see what benefits them on their own land. They're looking to see what is outside of themselves that helps to benefit them.
That's right.
And it never does. So
That's right.
You have the people,
That's right.
the leadership, like you mentioned. Let's go back to the leadership. So now you have the leadership holding on to Western concepts and Western ideas of success and wealth. Therefore, looking to achieve the American dream. How are you going to achieve the American or westernized dream when you live in Africa? Number one, you can't even achieve that when you're holding on, when you don't even give your own people, which are the source of your
wealth.
Yeah.
You don't have the African wealth because you're holding on. You're trying to hold on to European wealth when the Europeans actually hold on to your wealth, which is your land, and you won't even give your own people the ability to be or feel as if they can achieve in their own land because you take all the wealth and you won't give them the opportunities. Africa, in most African countries, and even here, I'm in the States, but even here, the mentality of giving to your own people is almost minute or moot in itself. If you have the wealth, but you won't give your people the opportunity to help develop themselves, then your land still exists in everyone else's eyes. You don't see your land as actually being something that you want to help develop. You only want the resources that others can give you from your own land, which doesn't make any sense. So your economic development stems on your cultural aptitude.
Period.
Your financial development is dependent on your cultural aptitude. If you can't hold on to your cultural aptitude, or you have no cultural aptitude, period, then you have no wealth. It doesn't matter how much money you think you have in your pocket or in your wallet or in your bank account. If your people are struggling and you're supposed to be the leadership that spearheads what happens in your country and happens with your people, you have absolutely nothing.
That's right.
Yep, absolutely.
You have nothing. Thank you. I want excellent, you Nnamdi. Both of you, your contribution is just absolutely marvelous. Now I'm trying to, Yakubu. Now you say Yakubu Abubakar. Okay, that's different from Mr. Baruwkelyon. Okay, I'm trying to get him in. He still seems to be having a problem. And then there's an echo. Can you hear the echo?
Yeah.
Mr. Yakubu, can you hear me? Mr. Yakubu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Now you're in. Which one is your name? Can you know?
We have an echo.
Yeah.
We have an echo.
That's
good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, is it from me? Okay.
Yes.
I think it's the wind. Let me address it.
Okay. Okay, I'll bring him back in as soon as because I noticed the echo. So okay, let me see if that's better. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's better now. No.
We still have the echo.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Can you see?
When
It's from
three
him.
of us are talking, there's no echo. Once it comes in, there's an echo. So either he has another cell phone,
there's an echo,
a computer.
I think in order for us to actually hear what he's saying, why don't we ask the question, bring him in, and then just have him answer, and we'll allow him to.
Yeah, I want him to answer the economic. So I'm going to mute the rest of you.
He's got a computer there. It looks like he's tuned into two different devices connected.
Yakubu, do you have two devices connected?
The laptop or
No.
something?
No, it's just one device, the mobile phone.
Okay. I can hear him without the echo. All right, let's continue the conversation.
Okay. Okay, I want you to answer the question. Impact has colonialism had on our economy, on African economy.
Okay, good afternoon from Abuja here in Nigeria. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, Yakubu Abubakar is the name. And from the notification I got from my good friend, Mr. Gadiel, I was to be a participant to hear my good friend Gadiel speaking. But unfortunately, I think he's having issues with network. I have listened to the host, which is Madame herself, just like the second speaker spoke. He says she's looking gorgeous. So I will add to my expression, she's looking takeaway.
All right.
So I look forward to you waving that kind of sunshade to me over here, so that I also look good. Okay, all the speakers have spoken very well. We have spoken beautifully. And well, what is there to add again is just we to identify what truly are our challenges, and are we really ready to face these factors affecting us head on. It becomes an issue. Like the second speaker has mentioned, we are looking at religion is a terrible issue over here. So if we are to go by the way we all started from our native parts, I believe that we would have gone better. Our economy will be stronger.
Yes.
We will have respect for each other. And then things would have moved far better. If you look at the issue of Boko Haram here in Nigeria, majorly is hitting part of the north where I come from. How have we been able to confront those issues holistically, to talk about them? We are not looking at it from the angle of human beings. Sorry to use that word. We are being economical with the truth. So basically, you look at it, things have just gone bad. So if anyone should ask me, have we done better since our colonial fathers came to introduce the platform we are currently using? I will say no, because that is not our origin. So yes. I think that will be my contribution for now. But the bottom line remains: are we truly ready to make a difference? I'm not seeing it. Honestly, I'm not seeing it over here. And most times it pinches me, it disturbs me that even the youth who are to by now have identified some of these issues, and for we to begin to ensure that we take steps to correct or erase some of the errors we are currently seeing now. We are not reasoning towards that end at all. And is worrisome. May God forbid we wake up one day and not have a nation called Nigeria. Yeah.
Yeah, I will piggyback.
Very good.
let me piggyback off what Yakubu just said. Very well spoken. I'm 100% agreeable with you. I think one of the concerns that you have was how do we proceed and how do we identify, right? Solutions to the problems that we have.
But before we start talking about Ochaji. DB Ochaji. Before we start talking about solutions, I want us to first of all identify some of these issues. So we've identified what colonialism has done for us economically, right? Now, the other thing, before we address, because at the end of the discussion, then I want each one of you to say, okay, so here's the solution. We see the problem, where are the solutions? But I want us to touch upon on all these different areas of concern. Then we talk about how we're going to solve it. The other one is human abuse. Human abuse is awful. There's nothing like abuse before the master came. Now we had there are some aspects of our tradition, like the caste system and some of those things. It's not really like after the war. Then you take some of the individuals and make them your your slaves or whatever, but they still have rights. But the human abuse that took place after the colonialism, the masters are no longer the masters, so to speak, those who came and mistreated and enslaved the African, but it's us now. We're now the masters. We're now the ones abusing the house boys, the house girls, raping the women, raping our people, doing to ourselves what the masters did. So what do you have to say about that? I'm going to ask each one of you to answer that. I'll take myself out, and I want each one of you to answer that.
It's a mindset, right? And some of the stuff that we've been talking about, we talk about the Boko Haram, we talk about the abuse of people, we talk about the bad economic policies, we talk about tribalism, we talk about a whole lot of things that is ailing Nigeria right now, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff, but these are symptoms. These are symptoms of a larger problem. There's a bigger problem, right? And it's because of that bigger problem that you have all this bad leadership, corruption, bad roads, bad infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. There's a bigger problem. Like Dr. Osimiri will always say, if you have a fever, is your problem the fever that you have? Or is your problem the reason why you have the fever? If you want to get rid of the fever, you have to attack the cause of the fever. Once you attack the cause of the fever and get rid of it, the fever automatically goes away. I think one of the biggest problems we have in Africa is not that we don't know that things are bad. It is lack of courage to face the truth, identify it, and be willing to sacrifice something. Every revolution demands a sacrifice. And most of the time, it demands a blood sacrifice. I'm not advocating that. I'm just dealing with the reality of life. Every revolution has to have a sacrifice. Every change has to have somebody with enough courage to put themselves above everything else. Put yourself above the risk, put yourself above whatever may happen to you, and just think about the good that the society is going to gain from your courage, from your mindset, from putting yourself out there and telling the truth. When you see a politician in Nigeria addressing a crowd or talking about, the problems that we have and what he's going to do about it or what she's going to do about it, they always talk about these symptoms because it is apparent in everybody's everyday life that these problems exist. Bad roads. If you make me the president or if I become the governor, I'm going to build the roads. I'm going to fix the schools. I'm going to get rid of corruption. He's going to identify all the issues that we have, and everybody goes, yeah. Now, 4 years ago, another politician came in and said the same thing. 4 years before that, another politician came in and said the same thing. It's the same crying call every political cycle without any solution. And then at some point, you have to say, this guy is a con man who just wants to get in power so he could continue to screw the masses like the previous administration did. Here's the difference. I have not seen a politician that got on the pulpit to address the crowd that is having a discussion like we're having right now, telling the people the truth, telling them why they have a fever, telling them the reason why corruption exists, telling them the real deal, letting them know the impact of foreign religion, the impact of Islam, why we have Boko Haram, why Africans are running around here like zombies, why we as Africans even get upset when somebody is trying to let us know what the real issue is. We turn our backs to it because we don't want to look in the mirror and say to ourselves, we've been bamboozled, we've been hoodwinked, we've been run amok, led astray. This is Malcolm X talking. Until somebody gets in the pulpit and has the same conversation that we're having right now politically, or until for some reason a military leader, somebody with both political, maybe not political, but military force, takes over that country and by force institute policies that is beneficial to the masses, just like Rawlings did in Ghana, Thomas Sankara did in Upper Volta, and maybe change the name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. Maybe somebody needs to get up there, change the name from Nigeria to something else that denotes nationalism. Maybe at that point, we will set ourselves on the right course and be accountable for the next generation. Learn about nation formation, nation building, nation management. Think about the children, the future, and give them a chance to compete in the 21st century.
And that's just perfect. I think you summarized it very well. Now I want Yakubu, then I'll go to Namdi. I want you to tell me what your thoughts are in terms of why we hold on to human rights abuses. Why do we see the good in it? Why is it that the masters have left, so to speak? Well, they're still there to some degree, but why is it that what we protested and wanted our freedoms for is still active right now? They left, but now we're the ones practicing it. What are your thoughts on that? Thank you, UD.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for giving me a window again to speak. I think it's still simple, very simple, crystal clear. The first thing is this: we talk about honesty. And I always define it to people that before you can say, I want to be honest, or I am honest to Mr. A or Mr. B, you must be honest to yourself first. Fine. Let's look at it from this angle. We have a constitution here that guides or binds us together as a people. Now, we look at the way the Constitution is being designed. Are we truly following what the Constitution says? Now, the Constitution should have come first before any other individual holy books, talking about the Quran as a Muslim or talking about the Bible as a Christian now. Now, we are not appreciating what God has given to us. We are not appreciating each other. If truly we appreciate one another, I expect us to have looked beyond things that does not matter. What do I mean by things that does not matter? We follow up on things that are not really dear to us and forgetting about what mankind is all about. You get what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
This is the point I'm trying to bring out. You should first see every other person as yourself. Okay, what if they dish this out?
Oh, he's frozen. He was making a very poignant point that was flowing
To
with
me,
him.
it still boils down to those who drive the leadership we are under now. It's just like somebody is on the pedal, the wheel, you know, he's driving us now. So we as Africans have truly not come to that climax. And then we need people, like you mentioned, to take ownership of all those platforms so that we can breathe in fresh air. You get what I'm saying? A lot of things you see is just funny. So we need to be honest to ourselves first. We need to drop a lot of sentiment and then look beyond tribalism, ethnicity, and all of those things. So I've always told people, I'm not a religious man. I'm not a sectional man. In fact, I don't even have religion. Sorry to say. Because
It's
I
okay.
believe that I believe that religion is just a personal thing. It's a personal thing between me and God. So I will not claim to be serving a living God and then want to hurt people. Okay, our colonial masters did this to us. Okay, they have given us the freedom now to lead ourselves. How well have we led ourselves? So we need to look at priorities, and there should be consequences for bad behavior. That is it.
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability.
Well said. And as you said, now I'm gonna ask Anandi, because it is almost a it's almost like it is a business. Human abuse is a business. It's a business that have been introduced to us. Now we are dealing in it. It's like when they introduce drugs, right? Then they go away, and then you start giving drugs to your own people. So human abuse, all these things that we're doing, it is a part of what we have learned, but we have refused to give up. So Nandi, my question to you is, what particular human abuse do you think that if we let go, then perhaps people will see themselves differently? If you look at what's happening to our youth are the houseboys. How do you feel good about yourself when all you can ascribe to is to be a houseboy for many of them, or a house girl, or to sell your body? That's actually business that was introduced to us that our leaders are holding on to. Nambi, so I'm asking you, what specific behavior, abuse do you think, if we let go, will start the process of healing and nation formation, as Yudia has indicated, Divya has said? Oh
man. Yeah, that's a good one. First off, I want to say Yakubu had an excellent answer to that question, and so did DB Otraja. This one is purely mental abuse. If you ever look at a bully, right? A bully in school, a bully in business, let's just utilize the bully in the schoolyard, for example. Everyone thinks that the bully is actually taking out his physical aggression out on those that he sees as weak, because he just feels some type of way, and he's utilizing his size, stature, power, and sometimes even just mental prowess to bully those younger, smaller, less capable. We don't know what's happening at the house, but one thing that we do know is if the child is bullying someone else, there's some type of physical or mental abuse happening at home, right? And most of the time, it doesn't matter if it is physical abuse at the house, it's still mental. Why? Because if the father or the mother is physically abusing the child, they're telling the child, you're not good enough, every single time. Mm-hmm. They are harming the child, therefore instilling and installing a level of mental incapability, telling the child that you're doing something wrong, you're not good enough, that something is being initiated in the child that is being solidified, saying, I'm not good enough, therefore I need to do this to someone else in order to make me feel good, right? So the visualization that is created in the child's mind, just like it is with everyone else that goes through these types of things, that have been mentally abused or been physically abused, spiritually, whatever, it all starts here. Starts in the mental. If you change the mentality of the person, then you will change the outlook they have on society, therefore changing society itself. I like that you started with kids and you said you have kids seeing themselves as they're being seen as the houseboys. One of the interesting things that I've noticed, I'm pretty sure every single person has ever has read comic books, right? Or watched cartoons, things of that nature. The superhero, the idea of the superhero. A lot of people think that when a child is reading comic books or playing with their toys and they're playing with the superhero and all that other type of stuff, they think, oh, that's just child's play. That's nothing. Let me be very clear. That is the first step to installing belief in a child. It may seem like, oh, it's supernatural and it's play and it's fictional. No, it doesn't matter. If you get a child a Superman toy or something showing an individual that may have the same stature as them, but has a different color, has a different creed, has a different cultural belief, cultural existence, cultural makeup, they're going to want to identify with that more than themselves. If you see a girl if you see a little girl that plays with a doll, why is it that most African girls are given white dolls instead of dolls their color? Because when they play with those dolls, they begin to install something in themselves, saying that this fair-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired doll is more beautiful than I am. That is mental abuse. Because now you're giving them the image of something that doesn't look like them, but it's giving them the power of that image without actually giving them the power of themselves. So mental abuse is key to every other type of abuse, physical or whatever. Because if you don't change that, if you don't give people, the African, whatever, something for them to believe in themselves, nothing else is going to change in their society, in their environment, in their world. Nothing else will change. If we look at where society... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought. Okay. I think that's basically that sums a lot of this up. Mental. You know, if we accept the mental abuse and we don't change it, our people will continue to be mentally abused. I want to read something that Uwa Abantu number 2 had written, and I'm not quite sure what it's saying. Nigeria is a human rights abuse, which we know that. I'm surprised to hear Igbo suggesting dictatorship on others and their own. What is that? Can anybody tell me what this is saying?
Yeah, I'm going to explain it.
Yeah, explain that, because I'm not quite sure.
What he's saying that traditionally we have a saying, right? We don't have a central leadership that tells every Igbo people what to do. Just like in the north, for example, they have the emir of Kano, the Sadwana of Sokoto, right? And so on and so forth. They got all these religious traditional rulers that pretty much dictate what direction the community goes, right? If the emir gives an order and it's legitimate as far as their own political, direction or ambition is concerned, if he feels that it's going to benefit the people, or maybe even for his own personal aggrandizement, they tend to follow. That's why the British backed the North, because the North had religious institutions that they feel that can help them control the masses better than the Igbos who are Christianized in the South, who not only are they Christianized in the South, but Igbo culture has this level of independent mentality, right? Where each man for himself, would have no central leadership that tells all the Igbo people what to do. Just like Abubakar has said, it's all about the individual. I don't care what anybody else does. When you come to the belief in God, it's all about what I believe in, and that's what's important. My belief should not supersede any other person's belief. What he's saying is that we don't have a central leadership, and therefore we cannot be talking about having a dictator to solve Nigeria's problem. But what he fails to see in his rush to judgment is the fact that we're offering temporary solutions that will help to set a direction for the entire country. And then from there, we can now strategically put together a system of leadership that is going to be beneficial both for the individual and the community. He's just being reactive to the idea.
I don't understand. Where did, when during our conversation, when did we suggest, who suggested dictatorship? Who did?
Yeah, when I said that Nigeria needs somebody like Rawlings.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
So he automatically goes to, no, you can't say Igbo. So he's not dealing with what we need to do to solve the problem that is ailing Nigeria right now. He's stuck in this Igbo is a thing that really, you know, people evolve. There's a certain evolution that takes place in a community, and that evolution happens based on how the community changes, right? You change with the times. You are fluid in how you think to accommodate the changes in the community, because those changes are not only affected locally, but also international influence can affect what used to be the norm in the past. But because of evolution, you've evolved, cross-cultural pollination, you tend to kind of adjust and be fluid as you move. He's stuck in this idea that Igbo has no central leadership. And because we don't have any central leadership, you cannot suggest that somebody should come in, take power to straighten out a problem that needs straightening out. So he's pretty much misinformed.
Okay. Well, I didn't understand. And you know, it's okay to have a particular sentiment. I just needed that clarified because I didn't understand what that meant. Let's see if Yakubu, do you have any thoughts on what that gentleman wrote? What are your thoughts?
You see, it's a good thing as some of the reactions are coming up. It actually shapes us. But what the speaker said, I think, was taken out of context, because what we are all looking for is, let's get back ourselves on a track, which has to do with sanity. Like Nelson Mandela will always say, may his soul rest in peace, he said, a true revolution is not a dinner party. So when we are coming to take decisions for betterment, obviously a lot of decisions will be taken. Some may go down well with some people, and some may also not go down well with some group of persons. So he's not just talking about generally a dictator come cause havoc, no, but somebody with a right mind, somebody who has the spirits of his people in his or her heart to come and set us on a new platform so that we can breathe in fresh air. And if that is the last option on the table, we don't have a choice. Let's look at all the country in the whole world now. Let's just go a little bit and then flashback. We could take our time to do research. Let's check how bad those countries were. Let's look at a country like China. It was a terrible place before, but they needed to take some certain decisions that from the beginning, it seems as if it was hurting. But where are they today? They are somewhere. They are somewhere. So he's just taken out of context, but his suggestions are on track. We really need to get out of this. And like I said a few minutes ago, I said, may God forbid we wake up and then discover that a lot of African countries cease to exist. You just look at what is happening. Is it where we should be? When I traveled last to, I think, Israel, and then I came back, immediately you return back to Africa, Nigeria precisely, you now begin to think, oh, the world won't end though. No world is ending. Is the way things are here. Is the way things are here. So should we continue on the platform we are now, or should we seek a redress for we to have our bearing? So I think the person has gotten him out of context, but based on our expansion, I believe the fellow that threw the question should understand. Yeah.
Thank you. Nnamdi, I want to read something that somebody indicated based on, this is Nosferatu. She says that she agrees with the doll aspects, but disagrees with the comic book example. You want to address that, Nnamdi?
Sure.
I'm not quite sure what she disagrees with the comic book example.
Sure, no problem. The question, agreeing with the doll example and the comic book example, there's no real difference other than what imagery is being set place in the child's mind. When you see an individual, when you see something that it's a creative work of art, if the individual that created the comic book created it with the goal to inspire the person reading it, then there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about. You're inspiring the person to go and be the best that they can be. But when you have certain elements from the creator, that when the person that is reading or seeing what the person has created is not giving any influence towards being the best that you can be, and also creating something of like mind for you to see and to say, okay, this is the example that I can take and I can run with. There's a major difference. I'm not saying that, people that are making comic books or creative works of art are trying to influence the individual to see themselves in this light. No, I'm saying that there are certain things and certain individuals, based off of who created it, are implementing a thought in the person that's reading it. So when you have creative works of art, the question is, are you just taking whatever it is that you're seeing and you're saying that that is it? Or are you saying that, okay, I'll be the next to create something just as good? I use that example for where we are today. This is not something to be seen and say, okay, this is what's influencing everyone. I'm saying that if you look at what is created and who is reading what is created, how are they taking it? And also who else is taking those examples and implementing those things as to say, I created it. This is how it looks. If you don't like it, get like this. This is the only thing that I'm going to acknowledge. This is the only thing that I'm going to, this is the only thing that you need to get like. I think.
Yeah. So in effect, Nnamdi, in effect, what you're saying, if I may just kind of summarize that a little bit, I'm trying to grasp what you're saying, and I see what you're saying, and that is the fact that comic strips, right, have influence on particularly the young, all right, depending on the content. If the content is such that one particular group is depicted, right, in a negative way, and a child who's reading it sees their person or who they reflect in a negative light, it does have an impact, a negative impact. Let me tell you something. When you look at Tarzan, the comic book Tarzan, right? Tarzan is this white man who comes from, where did he come from?
Europe.
Well, anyway, he found himself in the jungles of Africa. He finds himself in the jungles of Africa. Now, all these African people who have lived there, they can't talk to the animals. But this one man can fly in the trees, talk to the monkeys, make the animals do everything. Dango, dango, bondolo, dango. I did all kinds of stuff, right? Tarzan Ring. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know all of that stuff. As a child reading it, and I'm going to be honest, as a child reading it, I saw this, wow, look at that. And then I started talking to my poor dog in those like Tarzan. I see the animals are supposed to understand what the comics is that the animals understand. You see, and I saw myself. I didn't see me in him. I saw somebody who was bigger than me, better than me, and he didn't look like me. You see what I'm saying? So there are some aspects of those comics that make our people think less than, particularly children. So some of them are positive, some of them are positive.
That's
and a lot of the
that's the point I was making. For me, we're not talking about current comic books. We're not. The comic book was a example. Let's get away from Marvel, DC. We're talking about an example. This is an example. So
because Black Lives Matter have been declared. We're not putting up with mess. You get it right,
exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's an example. So if we're talking about a literary piece of work, or a painting, or a sculpture, see, these things are always taken from a certain type of perspective. If you look at, in the United States, if you look at some of these statues that are up, like Southern generals. If you go to Atlanta, they have statues of Southern generals. Until people actually started paying attention to who these Southern generals were, they were seeing them as heroes.
Yeah.
It's about perspective. Right. It's about perspective. When people started looking at those and started saying, wait a minute, this dude was responsible for the slavery, for upholding slavery and the mass killings of many African or African Americans in America, or Africans in America. Wait a minute, this statue now it's not starting to make sense. When you see the flag, the Southern flag, some of these Southern flags, what do you call it? The Confederate flag. These are symbols. These are images that actually solidify something to some people, and they mean something completely different to others. But they try to make you think that this is something that you should be proud of, when you know for a fact it's not. These are symbols. A painting is about perspective. A statue is about perspective. Depending on who created it, it's going to establish a thought process in someone else based off of who sees it. So these are just ideas, concepts that play into the role of the individuals that are perceiving it. Depending on who perceives it,
that's right,
it ingrains something different in every single person. So that's why I was using that as an example. And that's why some of those examples actually stand.
Okay, we can go on and on and on, and Nosferatu says that the South are finally coming down, the statues. Yes, absolutely. But I want to talk about something else. Another thing that has happened to us due to colonialism is the stealing of our resources. You know, the ancient artifacts. You know, there are some ancient artifacts and historical elements, as you well know, that are all in the British Museum, right? Now, people are going to Britain to see those things that belong to us. You see, why is it that? I mean, can you imagine if all of those things stayed in Africa? I mean, what it does for tourism, right? You know, the Nigerian, what are those heads? Who knows what I'm talking about? The Nigerian, I can't think of the name right now, but there are some very, very critical artifacts that were removed from Nigeria. They are all in the museum, you know, and some of those resources are in the country outside of Africa. They have been milled, okay? And gold, Ghana had gold. Ghana still does have gold. Those are resources that are taken away as well. As a matter of fact, we don't even have access to it. Some of us get hurt just to even access the mineral resources on our land. So that's the stealing of our resources, our mental resources as well. You know, a lot of our doctors, our nurses, all those people have been taken out of the country. Those are all, that's serious exploitation of our resources. People think it's just about the mineral resources. It's not just about the mineral resources. I was watching the other day. I don't know if you all saw it. I was just appalled at all the doctors that were being sent to Saudi Arabia. They were being paid good gobs of money, and these Nigerian doctors are lined up to get all these assignments in Saudi Arabia. What does that do to us? Wow. We're dying from the minutest things because the brain drain. So what are your thoughts about the fact that resources are part of the aftermath of colonialism? It continues anyway. The intellectual robbery, material stealing, generational, and the other thing is miseducation. Oh my God. I think, quite frankly, that's part of the worst aspect of stealing our resources, is putting something else in the heads of our children so that the children don't even see that they have what they have in Africa, and all they have to do is rebuild it or hold on to it. Not even rebuild it, hold on to it. After you hold on to something, you figure out what to do with it later on. But all of those things are impacting Africa, and many of us are now paying attention. Thank God there are some people who are. So what are your thoughts about the resources being taken out of Africa? And is it something that we should, I think maybe it was Liberia. I'm not sure what country that actually challenged England to return those African artifacts. And they were told, no, it will not be good for England if we do that, Nigeria. Can you imagine that? It's not good for them. But it was okay to pick. Oh, was it Nigeria? Okay, I beg your pardon. It was Nigeria. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. You talk about that, and then I'll go to I'll call you Yakubu because that's what's on your page, on your moniker, and then Nnamdi. All right, Yudi, go ahead.
Well, it's set up that way. It's perpetual, right? The dependency and underdevelopment. It's set up that way where, in perpetuity, they continue to abuse and drain Africa of its resources, both minerals and also human resources. Some of the brightest doctors and surgeons and engineers and what have you live outside of Africa, never getting a chance to come back to Africa to help to build and develop Africa, because the leadership structure, which is influenced by foreign entities whose overall goal is to keep you in perpetual servitude so that they will continue to have access to your resources. The way they do it is to make sure that certain people remain cycled in leadership. And those people are beholden to these foreign influences. And their payback is to engorge themselves, to enrich themselves at the expense of the masses. When you keep the masses poor to a certain extent, a man whose most important asset is his political vote will give it up for a bag of rice. Because his mind in his daily survival of himself, his children, his family, he will mortgage all that just to be able to live today. And for you to be able to get him in that condition, you have to deny him the opportunities that he needs to be able to make a way for himself and his family, believing that in this country, it is the land of opportunity. And as long as I work hard and work smart, I can accomplish and do anything I want. This is all a plan. And like I have mentioned before, and Yakubu had also touched on it, the only way to solve this problem, because, these are all symptoms. These are things that are happening. We can't solve those problems. And we can't solve the problem of them stealing resources. We can't solve the problem of bad leadership. We cannot solve the problem of infrastructure. Whatever you think that is ailing Africa, we cannot solve it until we deal with the cause. And the only way to deal with the cause, there are three ways. One of them is fantasy. The first one, as Mr. Yakubu had talked about, and you guys also have talked about it, is tell the truth during the political process. Stop talking about the symptoms and how you're going to solve them. Tell them why we got there. The truth. Be honest about it. Don't tell me you're going to build roads. Don't tell me you're going to build new schools. Don't tell me you're going to send me to the moon. Tell me why I'm in the condition that I'm in and what you intend to do about it. Tell the truth. The second is accountability. You must be accountable. There must be a price for you to pay if you deviate from the path of rectitude. How do you ensure that? You ensure that either by having leadership that is so strong-armed that the price of corruption is either a long term in jail or death. Whatever it is that is detrimental to the upward mobility of the community must be paid for, either in jail centers or that's it. The third one is fantasy. We can have Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man flying all over the place, just waiting for the criminal to do something bad, and then he could just swoop in and punch him out like boom, Lance-Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, or something, send them to another planet. You could do that, but that's fantasy. You need somebody to come in, because the way we are in Africa right now, it will take a strong man. One of them in Africa that is operating right now, I can give you an example, is the president of Rwanda, who pretty much looked at Western interests and told them, go jump in the lake. Rwanda just sent a satellite into space. Every community, every school in Rwanda has access to the internet now. The educational system has exploded. Namibia is another country. I mean, not Namibia, Botswana is another country in Africa that is doing excellently well because the leadership told the truth. There's accountability. Stop lying to people. Take religion out of it. Like Yakubu had mentioned in the beginning, what does that constitution mean? What is it based on? In whose cultures and traditions did we derive this constitution? We derive this constitution from the West. It doesn't represent us as African. It has nothing to do with our culture. It has nothing to do with our communal democracy, the way we governed ourselves before the Europeans and Islam came to our shores with the Quran or the Bible. Who were Africans before these foreign entities came in to change us, to get us confused, have us killing each other, warring, tribalism, religious persecutions, Muslims killing even Muslims are killing Muslims. The Shiites are killing the Sunnis, vice versa. They're murdering Christians. Christians are killing too. It ain't just the Muslims doing the killing. Christians are doing the same thing too. Okay? We need to tell the truth to the people. We need to let the people know there's a price to pay for being dishonest in government and enforce it. Your position has nothing to do with paying the price if you're corrupt. You have to be able to have strong enough institutions that will hold our politicians and our leadership accountable. Until we do it, we're going to continue to have artifacts kept in museums in Europe, because quite frankly, if you don't love yourself, if you don't love your culture, if you don't do everything you can to protect it from foreign influences and understand that culture is the backbone of the people, then your artifact is better off in England. Because as soon as you bring it to Nigeria, who's going to come to Nigeria to see it when you don't build any kind of cultural institutions that promotes that part of you? You think Britain is going to come to Nigeria to come look at your stuff? No.
That's right.
Because you don't even value it yourself. Look at what happened with, what's his name?
Yeah.
Chinua Achebe had a cultural museum in Onitsha. In Owerri. What do you think happened to it? The church came in there and burned it down and destroyed every artifact in it. And the church was it's just the way it is. If you don't value yourself, nobody's going to value you.
I remember what you're talking about, that the governor of I think is Owerri, they went and destroyed it. And it was a beautiful museum. Just destroyed it. Yeah, so we do have to value ourselves. This gentleman said, now let me have Kalfani Anu said, every hindrance to African forward movement is treason. And that's a mindset we have to adopt. We have to really adopt that. If you do not support the forward movement of the African people, then
It's
you
treasonous.
are, in a sense, treasonous.
Yeah.
It's treason.
I
So
agree.
let me have another perspective here. Let's have Yakubu. I was talking about the fact that we are getting all of our resources shipped out, and the intellectual robbery, you know, that sort of thing. Is this still going on as far as you know right now? Is that still going on in Nigeria?
Oh, well, you have pointed out a lot of issues that have become a nightmare to us, and basically, a lot of people are not seeing it that way. Like I always tell people, we don't have another country, if you're in Nigeria, other than Nigeria. And yeah, you could go to any other country, you know, change your citizenship and all of those things. But deep down you there, you know where your root is. And your culture and the culture of where you are trying to get coerced to will never be the same. So some people feels, okay, if we could take these resources to other countries, hide them there, do this, do that. Come on, man. If we don't solve our problem ourselves, nobody will come to solve our problem for us. We have a lot of countries now that the country itself has become a refugee camp. It's pitiful. And I had
Which
a
country
very
is that?
we have countries like Afghanistan. You can see what is happening there. You can see the saga. I think few weeks ago. And let's look at some part of Nigeria, the north, precisely where I come from. I had an unpleasant experience, I think 3 weeks back. I drove around Abuja, the federal capital, and discovered where mining activities in a very large scale was going on. And there was no signpost, no signboard to identify which company is doing these mining activities. I visited the Minister of Mining, and I brought this. He said, okay, good, let's drive down there. Let's go there in the morning. We booked an appointment. I think 20, 30 kilometers approaching there while we're already sighting the site. Let's go back, you know? So let's go back. Now, like we have all pointed out, there must be consequences for bad behavior. That's just the truth. Now, the selection of leadership becomes another fundamental issue that we need to look at critically. One, if you are picking a candidate that will represent you in 4 years, 8 years, or 1 year, as the case might be, you look at the antecedent, look at the attributes, the characteristics of that particular aspirant that you are trying to put to represent you. On what scale of progress, acceptance to progress, is that individual operating on? That is one. In his private life, what impact has he, created for the people? We need to look at all these things. How exposed and how resourceful, you get what I'm saying now, is this particular individual that we're trying to propose? So we are getting a lot of things wrong. Our priorities are not in place, and we need to check all these things. Let's zero religion, zero ethnicity, issue of zoning the position, presidential or governorship position, to a particular segment or section. Everybody can come, you register, and you look at the candidate, and then you look at what the person has to offer. We need to look at a whole lot of factors. We need to invest in health. We need to invest in education. We need to invest in ICT. We need to invest in agriculture. We need to invest in housing. These are the things that are keeping countries, not just one person coming, some things will just crack your head, billions of dollars being snatched by one person. Where are you taking it to? What do you want to do with it?
Would you?
Greed.
So we truly need to change our habit towards things. Okay, above all, let's assume as human being, the Almighty Himself bless you with good health. 100 years, we are gone, What will you go to tell your Creator over there that this is what you've actually done for humanity? What are you going to say? What do you have to put on the table? What do you have to put on the platform? So you see leaders coming out at different capacities saying some things that are very, very terrible. When I traveled to Ghana to an extent a few years back, I look at them, I say, okay, this part of African countries, they will make headway because they were orderly. But let's come back home now and look at what we are having now. Is terrible. It's terrible. You can't travel 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers and be safe. Look at our health sector. You know, a lot of, even our legislators need to eradicate some things, you know, that some people will just feel I can jet in, jet out anytime, attend medical care, you know, and the people you are leading, the taxpayers' money, what are you doing with it? Okay, so we can go to hell, we can die if you can provide for yourself. So we really need to get things done. Looking at religion, let's look at religion now. Priorities have been misplaced. That is the gospel truth. I think virtually most of us here are acquainted to Christianity. So let me borrow a word that the Messiah himself used. And I forgot where the portion of the Bible where he said, when Christ besieged the city, you know, he wept. And when he wept for the ignorance of man. He wept for the ignorance of man. So the religious leaders, traditional leaders, we should stop worshiping people because they are in the capacity of power today. They bring little thing for you, so you won't tell them what is obtainable. You should tell them what is obtainable. Tell them where they are getting it wrong. If the person dethrones you, he dethrones you, you go. But posterity has put it in record that this is what you have done. So how can doctors, for example, the host has mentioned that doctors, you know, they flee out of the country going to get a better option in other countries. Would you blame them?
No.
Something happens to them, their family will be left to their own fates. Look at the security agencies. You look at the security agencies, the police, the military, somebody served 35 years or die while defending us. His family will be left to the fates of life. So we need to look at a lot of things, and like I said, there must be consequences for bad behavior. If that is not put in place, we will not get it right. People need to be sanctioned seriously. People need to be sanctioned seriously so that we could look at better things. And we don't have any other country like Nigeria. Like I said, you could go, you know, get registered in other countries. But what happens at the end of the day? Your culture and their culture is not the same. So we need to cut down a lot of things. Even the youth coming up, you see 100% of youth seated. You look at how they talk, the things they engage themselves in. You look at a lot of factors. What are their priorities? They are not even looking at people who are ready to take over, you know, leadership in the next 10, 20 years. So it's funny if you look at the people who are ruling us, still the same old stock, recycling.
Yep, recycled leadership.
Recycled leadership. We are still getting it wrong. So somebody at 70, 80. Yeah. So that's it. We must get things.
Leadership is like a business. We're taking what was given to us and we're recycling it. We're not coming in with any new ideas necessarily, now as far as leadership is concerned. And I will say this to you. I'll give Nandi the last word because we're going to have part 3. Otoaja Yudi has to leave, and so do I. But this is going to go just 5 more minutes. That's all we have. And Namdi, just very briefly summarize your thought on what we just talked about, because we haven't even touched upon the sovereignty, African sovereignty. What does that mean? Traditional way of life. What does that mean? How is that being impacted? Technological effect. You know, what technological effects has colonialism had? I don't know what's making all that noise that we get. Okay. Wambi, go ahead.
All right. Well, number one, I want to thank everybody for their points of views. Yakubu, you made an excellent point. Divya and Traja, excellent point. Everybody was basically just delivering everything that we actually need to hear. These are the conversations that we need to have. These are the things that are poignant in our development as not only people, but our country as a nation. If we're not going to take accountability and see that we actually have, I think this is something that for some reason I feel like, I don't want to say that it's being ignored, but I think we're truly forgetting, not just here in this country, but also back in the diaspora, Nigeria, for example. We have so much more power as the people than we give ourselves credit for. It's up to the people to actually see who is necessary for their own leadership. Either you have those individuals that volunteer their time, volunteer their energy, volunteer their life to see that they become the change that they want to see, or we will continue to be taken advantage of. Because now you have China coming into the picture, coming into Nigeria, coming into many other countries, and geopolitically solidifying themselves. Meaning, and Yakubu mentioned this earlier, in a minute, we're not going to have a place called Nigeria. It's going to be the new Republic of China in a second. And it's the leadership that is allowing this to happen. It is the leadership that is allowing this to happen, only because they're allowing it to happen to themselves. They are taking the chump change that individuals are giving them based off of self-preservation, and are ignoring that individuals are coming into their lands, coming into their cities, coming into their states, coming into their countries, and are basically raping them mentally. This is why we say mental abuse is very important to acknowledge and attack. Because if individuals are able to come in, give you a slice of bread, and you think that that is what you need to sustain yourself, then when you can't pay back that slice of bread, they come in and take over the entire wheat farm that you're sitting in. You are sitting in a wheat farm, meaning that you have the ability to create loaves of bread, not only for yourself, but for your country, your countrymen, and even export those things over to those individuals that may need it all around the world. But someone else comes into you, gives you crumbs. You take the crumbs, they come in, take your land, and now they can feed not only themselves, but they feed their own people. It's mental abuse at its finest. And if we, as the people, don't realize that this leadership is not what is for the best interest of our people and for I look at it like this. If there's someone standing in the way of my children, of allowing my children to eat and allowing my children's children to eat, I'm going to have to find a way to be able to say, okay, where are my brothers at? Where are my sisters at? We need to handle this. If this individual is not going to do what is best for us, we gonna have to handle this. Vote, get that person out, or
I see exactly where you're going. Listen, we can be here all day, and I'm going to invite you again next week because this conversation needs to continue. There are so many aspects of it that we haven't touched today because of time constraints. But I want to invite you. I want to thank you. Yakubu, we keep calling you Yakubu, but I'm not sure that's your name. Could you please give your full name? It's because your Monica said Yakubu Abubakar. So we want to get your real name. Could you give it to us? What's your real name? Your full name?
Okay. My name is Yakubu Abubakar. That's my real name. I'm from the northern part of the country. But like I said, okay. I'm not a religious or sectional person. I'm a full-blown Nigerian. So anywhere anything right is coming from, we are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get him back on the show again to continue this conversation.
What I want to say now is that I'm going to invite you guys, like I said earlier, I will invite you next time. I want to thank all of you who have joined, and I hope that you come back next week because there's so much more that we have to talk about. Thank you, K. Omiri. Thank you, Nosferatu, Charles Ukuna, Fiwish, Herle. I'm not sure if I got that right. I want to thank, let's see who else we have here. Kalfano Kwano Anu. Thank you so much, Matt Lewis. Ukuna Charles, I think I've already mentioned you. And Uwa Abantum, number 2. Thank you all for joining us. There are people streaming on the other part that I can't read all their names, but I want to thank you very much for joining us. We have another show next week at the same time. And Yakubu Abubakar, I am inviting you back because you were an awesome guest. Thank you very much. I'm sorry we had challenges with the technology initially, but I think we pretty much have it right now. So thank you all. Thank you very much. This has been absolutely wonderful. Let's keep the talk going. At least we're talking about it. And that's half the battle. You know, silence is not an option. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Cheers.